3, 2. Hey guys, I'm Sean.
And I'm Jim.
And today our topic is short ribs.
And you just saw Sean's OCD.
Yes. Well, it's not a I have to be first thing. Just so you
know. No, I'm
guys.
not talking about first. I'm saying
it's
no. I'm not talking about being first. I'm talking about the way that you swapped the images so that
you're on
the left-hand side.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Is you read left to right, so I'm first right now.
Oh,
but that's not what it is. It is that all of our other videos have me on the left and you on the right. So this is for consistency. And that's it.
Like I said, OCD.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So anyways, guys, my video is up first today. We swap that back and forth. I think it's my turn. So we're going to jump into it.
And as Sean mentioned, we're doing short ribs.
Hey guys, I'm Sean with Cross Country Food Wars, and today our challenge is short ribs. I am making a wine braised short rib with thyme, and I'm gonna make a side dish of some roasted potatoes and bacon. So, gonna get into it.
You gotta have
roasted mushrooms and bacon. There will be potatoes too, though. So, all right. So first things first.
Okay, you got English.
Gotta get cut. Yes. Coarse salt on here. And we're just gonna salt all these down.
Interesting.
And we're just gonna kind of roll these through and pick up all that.
What's with the double pan layout?
Oh, that's just me stacking up pans because I'm not using them right this minute.
Oh, okay.
I almost always leave my cast iron out.
Now that these are nice and salty, you can actually see the individual grains of salt on this, because they're nice and like thick. So we're gonna go ahead and get
very coarse salt. That's a coarse smoked salt, by the way.
Okay. Right, get that sizzle going, or as Anne Burrell calls it, get that applause going.
These in. And after a couple minutes, we'll get them turned because we want to get them nice and deep brown on all sides. So, we'll do that in a second here. We're working on it now, and we'll be back once they're browned up.
Okay.
I'm just going to take this garlic here, and we're just going to roast the whole thing.
Heads up, there's smoke in the hallway.
Action. And after a short break to clear the fire alarm. If you're not smoking, you're not searing, guys. That's all there is to it.
I forgot to turn on my vent, too.
We're going to get these garlic bulbs down in here. And then, before they burn, we're going to go ahead and deglaze our pan. We're using 19 Crimes.
It's actually Snoop Dogg's wine.
Oh, okay.
It's actually quite good. I mean, I'm no wine connoisseur, but by my standards, it's pretty tasty.
Boy, you use a lot of wine in there for that. A whole bottle?
It's going to be cooking at 350 for quite a while, so. And then it's going to be holding for even longer.
Yeah.
Some thyme in here to steep.
That's a pretty high temp to be braising at.
Going in the oven.
It's still a high temp.
Well, it works.
Get it all timey-wimey.
Smoke alarm silence in the hallway.
A little bit more salt. For good measure.
Can't help but think of Ron White saying,
some black pepper.
Telling his wife that the smoke detector is not a timer.
Because as you guys know, we don't.
With searing, it is.
Our meat before we sear it. And why don't we do that? Because it burns. It burns, boys and girls. It burns.
Talking about if you pepper before you sear.
Yes.
Terrible.
There are a lot of
technique.
TV cooks out there peppering their meat before they burn it, and I do not understand. It
yes,
burns,
and I said that on purpose.
Bitter.
Peppering before they burn it.
Yes.
I said
Looks
that
like
on
shit,
purpose.
honestly. Or tastes like shit, honestly. Burn some pepper if you want to.
No, I've thought
You
the
won't want
same
to do it
thing many
again,
a
I'll tell you
time.
that. That's a
Let's go
fact.
pepper and garlic.
And then
Yeah.
we're
But I
going to
harp on
toss
pepper
in
because
one ghost pepper.
every fucking chef, on TV puts salt and pepper on beef and then sears it.
Right.
And that is disgusting.
Yeah, that
is
anything.
foul.
Salt is one thing. Salt is a rock.
Yes.
It won't
Pepper
burn.
is a freaking herb, guys. It's a spicy herb is what it is. It comes down to. It's a seed,
Yeah.
you know?
Basically, any spices and herbs that you have on on food before you sear it is going to burn, with the only exception that I'm aware of being salt, since that's a rock.
Right. Well, salt is it's a mineral, is what it is.
Yeah. In fact,
But-
Alton Brown has got an episode where redoes his steak episode. He actually puts a ton of salt down in the pan first and cooks on top of the salt.
That works. You can do that. I don't know why you would, but you can. I don't really understand his methodology there, but I do know that you can't burn it. So that just seems excessive as far as the salt goes, in my opinion. But
that's on a relatively high heat right now, right?
yeah. I mean, it's still at searing heat. So
Okay, yeah.
I
Because I'm waiting to see that reduce a bit before it goes in the oven.
I'm leaving the lid cracked in the oven. It's cracked ever so slightly
to steep.
But I'm boiling off most of the alcohol right
Get
here.
that fire off, and we're gonna set our oven.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take long.
Degrees.
No.
It's irrelevant that it hasn't preheated because right now this wine is boiling. We're gonna cover that for now. At the end, we'll uncover it to get it to thicken up for us.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Boys and girls, alcohol does not boil off 100%. There's always a little bit left. If that bothers you, fix something else.
Trace amounts, but
yeah,
you could eat 100 servings of that and not get drunk.
Damn.
So, I consider it. I consider it near enough to zero that it's imperceivable.
Yeah, I think I saw a chart where it takes like a couple of hours to get it down to 5% remaining.
Well, it only starts at like 9 or 11%, or what is it? No, wine is higher.
A little bit higher, yeah.
Wine is
Wine's
higher.
like fortified wine is like 20-some%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah, wine's like 11 or 12%.
Yeah, but I mean, 2 hours at 350, there's no alcohol left. And it went 2.5, and then I left it well, you'll see. But I'll uncover it and cook it longer in there to thicken it up some. There's actually not all the liquid that's going to go in there isn't in there yet, because it gets beef broth at some point too. That's off camera though, but it does get beef broth at some point, and it gets some tomato paste off camera as well. So that won't get shown, but it is in there. I forgot.
Okay.
Dinner's 99% of the way done now. Now it's just waiting. All we have to do is wait for it to get done. We'll have to do the side dishes, obviously, because we're going to do a side of potatoes and we're going to do a side of mushrooms.
The mushrooms is more of a garnish.
Side of mushrooms and bacon. But yeah, as far as the main dish, it is basically now just a waiting game. We're done cooking it. We just have to wait now. Be back in a while. Okay, guys. So it's been about 2.5 to 3 hours.
By the way, in this time, it's been cooking off for a while. The beef broth has been added, and it's cooked back down again. So the liquid level is almost where you saw it at this point again, because so much of it cooked off and was replaced by beef broth. So it looks almost the same, but it's not the same now.
Yeah, you and I have got a different approach on braising, but mainly because you have the lid offset.
Just about it. And there they are. Nice and soft and juicy. These will go back in the oven, because that one's not quite there. This one is, though. So a couple of them could stand to go just a little bit longer, but that's okay, because we're going to put them back in when our potatoes are almost done. For our potatoes, because we're
I
having
noticed you didn't
3
use any
dishes
flour
here,
in there
technically
to
in
help
one.
make a gravy.
For potatoes, they're just going to be a roasted potato.
Don't need to.
They're like
I want it
skin-on,
thin this time. I
baby
want it more of a
potatoes.
jus. Less of a
And they
gravy.
have a fresh thyme in them. They have
You can see I squeezed my my garlic bulbs out.
Yeah.
They all popped out. They fell out.
Oh, of course.
salt.
We left them whole in there and we pulled them out, and Alice was smearing them on things because it's just basically wine braised garlic at that point, and that's
Yummy.
freaking delicious. Yeah, I mean that's crazy good. Those are the best pieces in the whole pan, honestly. Little niblets of garlic soaked in wine sauce. There's nothing better.
Nope. Get yourself some
pepper,
toast, and you're a happy camper.
Absolutely.
And I used
That's
a
butter of the
Szechuan
gods
pepper
right
as well,
there.
right here, and a little bit of black truffle oil. Drizzle over
Truffle
them.
oil. Fancy.
Now that is not the truffle oil that all of the high end chefs are disgusted with. That is an olive oil infusion with truffle in it. That is not the gross variety of truffle oil where it's fake truffles, because there's truffle oil that's fake truffle, right? And that is cloying. It's disgusting. I mean, it's really gross. It lingers on your tongue for too long. It doesn't finish clean. Like it just stays with you. It's rough, man.
I recall an episode of Chopped where the judges presented the winning candidate with a bottle of that truffle oil because she used so much of it in her dishes.
Yeah.
Every single dish she was just pouring on the truffle oil.
And they hated it because
But she won.
Yeah, but anyways, there's a couple different kinds of truffle oil, and the truffle oil that is actually reasonable to use is the olive oil variant, where they drop a couple of drops of truffle in there, and it just steeps, and it makes the whole olive oil taste like truffles.
I'll have to try it.
That's the kind you want. The other kind is like an artificial flavor that's supposed to taste like truffle, and that's fucking gross. Like, don't eat that. It's gross. Don't eat it. The people that made it should go to prison. I mean that wholeheartedly. Like it's a war crime. Anyways.
Serving someone that should be a quick mixy mix. And I'm also going to add a little bit of butter because I didn't quite get as much oil in here as I wanted for my fat. But I'm going to throw a little bit of butter in here and toss it in the oven.
So too much truffle oil would be overpowering. So I needed additional fat to have enough, enough fat in there. So some butter to kind of temper it.
And I will be back after this.
How long are they going in the oven for?
It is
about 45
time
minutes
to saute the mushrooms off with some bacon for the other side dish. But that takes like a couple of minutes.
That pan's not even hot. It's just habit to grab it with something.
Yeah.
That pan's not touched any heat yet at all.
No, the short ribs take a long time. The short ribs take a long time. The potatoes take half an hour, 45 minutes to do properly because I like them really crispy on the outside. And so we're gonna let those go.
I've got to ask.
Sure.
Why didn't you pop the ovens in pop the potatoes in there along with the your braise, or was it especially since you were braising at 350, which
Which
is
high.
Which is high and which is perfectly okay for the potatoes.
Yeah, so basically it was to stretch out the time that it took. I'm timing the dish being finished with Alice waking up for work. She works third shift. So I started early. I started too early. So I basically just made it take way longer to prepare so that everything would be hot and fresh when she woke up. That's why. Okay. There's no reason they couldn't be cooked side by side. It's just that I needed to start before she went to sleep, and then needed to finish as she was waking up. So I just made it take 3 times as long as it should Because I needed to start before she went to bed because she's my camera person.
Whereas I
And-
always think about, I always try to plan things out where everything's coming together at the same time at the end.
Well, I did, in that the short ribs aren't quite done. They're going back in to finish. And they'll be in there alongside the potatoes. And I'm actually going to turn my oven down to about 170 to hold everything at temp until it's time for her to get up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The short ribs
I
back
did,
in for a
sort
couple
of.
minutes to finish up. And then
And honestly, that time at 170 is really good for the beef. It makes it even tenderer.
Oh, of course.
It just gets softer and softer and softer. So in reality, there's actually some good to be had from waiting all that time and leaving it in the oven that time covered up. Is that it just keeps steaming and steaming and steaming, getting
Right.
more and more tender.
Right.
I mean, you'll see at the end I do a plate wiggle, and this in the short rib just jiggles like a brisket.
when it's time to eat, I'll do the mushrooms and bacon. So, see you guys in a little while. Okay, guys, so now it's time to just finish up.
As you
And
can
we're
see, it's
gonna
dark
get on
outside
down to
now.
our garnish here.
You can kind of see back here it's darker now.
Pan
A little bit.
and some bacon on high. Okay, so our bacon's been
I am using a wok
cooking
because it's faster.
down for a little bit here, starting to release some of that good fat in the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our onions in now. And that's about a half an onion.
Had a little skin in there. Had to take it back out.
And we don't want.
I didn't do much editing in this.
We
video
don't
at
want
all.
in this pan right
Usually I
now
edit a ton. I didn't edit
is more salt.
I thought it
We're
was all
sauteing bacon. We do not need more salt in our seasoning, but we are going to add some pepper, just so that this garnish kind of stands on its own from a flavoring standpoint. We're just going to get in here with a little bit of pepper. Nothing crazy.
That wasn't much pepper at all. For the amount of food that's in the pan,
Now we're not
Yeah.
searing this, so it's okay.
and
to put
more
bacon,
and
it's
more
okay to
and
put
more
pepper in.
food's going in that pan.
You get into
Must be solid in there.
problems when you are searing off a big hunk of meat for a long period of time with pepper on it because it burns and turns real bitter. In this
Talking about
case,
some more.
adding pepper in the early goings is fine. Okay.
Just explaining the difference between sautéing with pepper and searing with pepper and how they're wildly different situations.
Oh, yes.
Sautéing with pepper, freaking delicious. Searing with pepper, absolutely foul. For reasons of temperature and how long something sits. So it just sits there and burns. Sautéing, you're going to keep it constantly moving. It's never going to be in contact with the pan long enough to actually char and release all those bitter flavors. So that's the
Ideally.
difference, guys. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're decent at sauté, yeah, it'll never happen. If you're bad at sauté, then yeah, it could happen. But if pepper burns, everything else will be burnt too at that point. So you'll probably throw it in the bin. You know, honestly, if you burn pepper while you're sautéing, whatever that pepper is on is also burnt. So you're probably going to throw it away because you know it's burnt. Burnt pepper on, like, say, a seared steak sneaks up on you because you don't realize it's burned. The steak looks amazing. It's nice mahogany colored, and you bite into it and you taste the burnt pepper. So it sneaks up on you. You know, burnt pepper in a saute, you'd know because everything else would be burnt too. Fair enough?
Yep, I'll go along with that.
Now that's been going for a little while. We're going to go ahead and get in our mushrooms. And I cut them in half ahead of time. The
And
reason we're
wash
adding
them.
them now, as opposed to later, is there's a decent amount of water weight in these mushrooms, and since I cut them in half, I actually want them to cook down quite a bit. Usually, I saved a lot of that moisture. I cut them into quarters, and I don't cook them as long. This is me kind of trying something new here. But I want to see how much flavor kind of develops if I go with halves and cook them for longer.
Yeah, I would think that the
Obviously,
smaller
I've already
pieces are better.
Pre-cut and washed
all these mushrooms. So now it's just a waiting game. As soon as these are done, dinner is done.
They ended up being perfect, actually.
So we're gonna let these cook for a little while, and then we'll be back.
At least to me and
Okay,
Alan.
so our mushrooms have been cooking with bacon for a little while here, and they're just gonna serve as our garnish. And they're about ready.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and get plating. So
They're
we're gonna
just
start with the
creminis, so
potatoes.
creminis cook down a lot. Stems from the thyme.
Yeah.
Nice crispy potatoes. That off. Now we're gonna go in with our short ribs.
Now, a lot of times I'll serve this over mashed potatoes
Right.
instead, but I elected
lost
to
the piece.
do. See, that fell
Man
off.
down.
The top of it fell off.
Yeah.
Actually, short rib down.
That's one reason that short ribs make fantastic pot roast.
It's a waste of a short rib.
And then
Short ribs aren't tough enough to
we're gonna get in
warrant
here with
a pot
our
roast.
garnish. Shroom down. And then from there
And there's just
We'll
a
let it
nice,
on just a
just a
little bit.
thin jus.
of this
Yeah.
delicious goodness that is that wine sauce that it cooked in. All over everything.
I like that.
Guys, not the prettiest plate I've ever turned down, but this is pure deliciousness. Look how gelatinized that beef is. And we've got some nice crispy bacon on here, some nice cooked through mushrooms, and then the potatoes that roasted in the oven. And this is delicious. I mean, look at the jiggle of that short rib. It's almost like it's out of the smoker. Anyways, we're gonna enjoy, guys. Have a good one.
The only thing that Val would say about that is, "Where's the green veggie?"
Fuck green veggies.
That
That's what I
looks
would
good.
say back. Thank you.
It looks good.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold plate.
And I'm certain that the leftovers tomorrow will taste even better.
What leftovers?
Oh, okay.
I cooked 4 bones,
Okay.
2 per person. That's about right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 bones per person is the perfect amount. At least it was for us. I mean, we didn't even eat like that crazy. I mean, it wasn't even that crazy of amount. I stacked it up real tall, so it looked like a crazy amount of food, but it really wasn't. You know, because I stacked it like a pyramid, you know, almost. But
Yeah.
it wasn't really that much. It just presented, like a lot.
Yeah. No, it really looks like it's going to be good. I mean, you and I have differences in our braising style and such, but the end result was certainly quite acceptable.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine the flavor right now.
Yeah. And I mean, you saw how deep brown those were. So, there's a lot of Maillard effect going on there to deepen that flavor.
Yeah, I still think I might have reduced that jus a little bit to more of a sauce, or added some a cornstarch slurry, so you keep that the appearance, but thicken it up a tiny bit to more of a sauce.
Yeah, I considered doing it, and usually I do it that way. I wanted to experiment with a thinner jus instead this time.
Okay.
So,
Surprisingly enough, I also went with a thin jus instead of thickening.
Yeah, I mean, I usually thicken it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it was different from what I usually do. I usually will do a cornstarch slurry or cook it down some. Actually, what I usually do is I pass all that garlic through a sieve, and that way I end up with that in there as well. And then I'll take a stick blender to it and then I'll add my cornstarch slurry and all that. But I decided not to go through all that today. I decided that just the thin juice on the potatoes would taste great.
Well,
and I was right. It did.
well, as you'll see, I did basically the same thing.
Nice.
Not
I'm
quite
excited.
but not for the same reason, but I did the same thing.
All right, let's see what we got going on here.
All right, hot cast iron skillet so I can sear off the flanking ribs. These are called flanking ribs because it's a plate of ribs cut across the bones. I did wash them off first underwater because going through the bandsaw that many times, it's guaranteed there's going to be bone dust and shards on them. So you just do it. Now, I'm trying to get a sear here, and unfortunately, I didn't get as much sear as I wanted, but I was running short on time or tight on time, and, well, I went for it. At least I did get some sear.
Yeah, you got a little browning. I'm
Yeah,
definitely not. I
not as
definitely,
much as I wanted.
yeah, I was gonna say I definitely wouldn't be happy with that sear.
No, I'm not
Personally.
happy with that sear. I might have crowded him. I might have had a little bit too much oil. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Oil, it'll still sear in oil.
Yeah.
It's. I think your pan wasn't quite hot enough, and you may have crowded it a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah, I might
we
not.
all make minor technical errors sometimes. I mean, that's fine.
Now it's added a bit more oil to it. And now comes some onions and some red bell pepper.
Okay.
Gonna let these cook a little bit. I turned the heat down obviously because I'm not looking to caramelize the onions on this. I just want to get them start to soften up, become translucent. So nothing fancy here. I didn't bother showing the mise en place for this because, let's face it, we all know how to cut an onion and cut a bell pepper.
Yep.
Of course, there's garlic.
Has to be.
And as always, I go with the jar garlic. It's just fine for this application.
Usually I do too. So.
And now, some ginger.
I wondered what you were reserving. Now, why'd you reserve the ginger? The ginger can stand up to being cooked for quite a while.
Because I haven't used it before. I'm not used to it. Now I know.
Okay.
I didn't want to take a chance on burning it.
Heard. Yeah, you don't really need to reserve your ginger.
Oh, by the way,
now you know that, right?
Yeah. Okay. And there, go ahead and pause this, please. And of course, here is a can of sliced water chestnuts. Now, this dish I'm saying is Korean inspired short ribs. It's not Korean style short. It's not Korean short ribs. It's Korean inspired short ribs, just because of the meat I'm using, some of the ingredients, some of the flavors I'm going to add. It's probably not the real thing, but I'm going to say it is inspired by Asian flavors.
Okay.
So, I mean, don't hold me to task for saying these are not Korean short ribs. So
what made you go with water chestnuts here?
Because I thought they would taste good.
Just thematically, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something that, as I've learned over my experience, is just flavors I think would go good with things. Here I'm adding, that's about a cup of beef broth. That's all I had left for a braising liquid, plus a deglazed pan. Now I'm adding some soy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit there. Going to add some hoisin sauce.
Hoisin's good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, first I'm putting in a little bit of sesame seed oil or sesame oil there. There's a hoisin, and if you notice, I put a fair amount in.
Can I ask why you went with sesame oil here instead of later?
Because I saw a lot of recipes saying put sesame seeds on or toasted and so on, and I wanted that sesame flavor, but I figured if I put it here in the braising liquid, it would soak into the meat better.
Yeah.
And I didn't use much because sesame oil goes a long way.
It does, and it's more of a finishing oil. I
know.
gotta admit, I don't really agree with the use of it here in the beginning. I just don't agree with it.
Well, I'm still feeling my way around it.
That's fair enough.
So now they got everything in there.
Yeah, it's just so potent that when you cook with it, you know what I mean? It can really take over your dish, unfortunately.
Now here I'm taking my seared ribs, just nestling them down into the veggies a bit. They're not sitting on the pan itself. but they are down in the liquid.
Okay.
And from here,
And they'll get if you're leaving them like that, they'll get some more browning in the oven too.
yeah. Well, I'm
They're
going to cover
exposed.
this. I'm
Oh,
going
you're
to
gonna
cover this.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a braise.
Well, yeah, of course.
So now it's just a matter of getting them covered and put down into a 250-degree oven. And they stayed there for 2 hours. And I thought I'd cut that part out. Okay. Yeah. Now it's going down to the oven. Now, they're back out. Oh, but go ahead and pause this real quick. Off camera, because you see me do it before, and I didn't feel any need to show it again. I did make my mustard green rice again, plus I added some chives to it this time.
Okay.
That technique of bringing the rice to a boil and then adding the mustard greens, or in this case also chives, that works. The color was the same, just nice, fluffy white rice, perfect. I also, off camera, steamed some broccoli. So
Okay.
this is a riff on broccoli beef.
Okay.
So anyway, things are done. Yeah, go ahead and start it. There we go. Things are done. I've got the colors in there that I want. I always like to have something red in there. That my green was coming from other stuff on the dish. The water chestnuts for flavor and, of course, color. And these things are tender. Absolutely tender. A lot of the fat rendered.
I see that.
If you notice, I didn't add any flour to this ahead of time to make a gravy because I don't plan on serving it with the juice, with that braising liquid. Now, here I'm getting the plate ready. I've already put the rice and broccoli on the plate. I'm just getting some of the vegetation down there. Then, of course, the meat's going to come out. I'm going to take one strip of ribs. And while you don't actually see it because I had a piss poor camera angle, I didn't think about it properly. What I'm doing is I'm cutting the meat between the bones. So that meat now becomes finger food, so you can gnaw the meat off the bones. And there's my Korean-inspired short ribs. That's a riff on beef, broccoli beef.
I gotta say that's one of your better plating jobs.
Thank you. No, Val paid me a high compliment on it, saying that she wants me to make it again, and it beats out my chicken dishes because the beef was more tender. This is probably a strong second to her favorite dish I make, which is a pot roast. I was trying to figure out what to do with this, so it wasn't it's sort of a pot roast, but it wasn't. But I did want that braise in there. I saw a couple of different ways of doing it. One was strictly a stovetop where they seared it, added some water, and then cooked it on the stovetop in the water till it's fully cooked. Actually, I take that back. They put the meat into a pan on the stovetop with some water, cooked it until the water was gone, seared it, and then added a couple of things on top of that. And I didn't quite like it. Now, to do this, a proper Korean style would have had a marinade. Instead, because I was missing a couple ingredients, and once again I got caught on time, I went with the way that I did.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that braising liquid. Yeah, I could have taken everything out, then reduced it, put a cornstarch slurry in it, made a sauce, but I really don't think the sauce would have added to it or been in the right space for being an Asian style dish I was looking for, Asian inspired dish I was looking for. not for beef and broccoli. A gravy wouldn't have done it.
No.
Now,
I think that not putting that on it was the correct choice.
yeah, but the one thing about this one was this one is almost completely flying by the flying by the by the by the seat of my pants. The recipe, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that's just grabbing an onion I had, bell pepper I had. The only thing I bought specific for it was the water chestnuts and the ribs.
Yeah, I mean it looked pretty good. I mean, as far as that, obviously like I said, the sear, is questionable,
Yeah, I
and
was disappointed with the sear.
the use of the use of I also, and I found the use of the sesame oil in the beginning pretty regrettable as well. But other than that,
Well, I didn't. I wasn't quite certain where I could get that sesame flavor in, other than in the braising liquid.
what you'd want to do in the future is, at least what I would do in the future, and I cook a lot more Asian food than you do, is I would have sesame oiled. I would have either sesame oiled the rice instead of the beef, so that it would still be in the bite. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or which that would be my preferred way to do it. Actually, would be to add the sesame oil to the rice.
Whereas to me, that sounds like bringing in a texture on the rice I don't really want.
It wouldn't have done much, honestly. It would have made the rice a little bit more slippery, but it's negligible. And if you eat like higher end Asian food, most of the rices have something on them, whether it's rice vinegar or sesame oil. There's some sort of finishing liquid that's added to them at the end before they're served, for the most part. So that would be in line with
No, it's
traditional
strange.
cooking.
No, it's strange that you mentioned the rice vinegar, because that's something I'm going to play with next time around on rice. Is adding some type of sugar vinegar mix to it, so it's more like sushi rice.
That works. But yeah, I would have either done it with the rice, or I mean, honestly, just after you're done cooking it, threw it in my wok with a little bit of sesame oil for a half second, just a quick stir around with the oil, and done
Okay.
on low heat. Just a quick couple flips through the oil.
Well, if I had a wok and didn't have to dodge my wife throwing it at me when it arrived, I might try that.
It wouldn't hurt. Woks are light. Just don't get a cast iron one, then you're screwed.
You don't know how hard she can throw.
You know, I know how durable a wok is. Most likely, your head would dent the wok instead. I mean, they're.
I'm not that hard headed.
Well, no, it's just woks are really, really thin. I mean, like less than a millimeter thick. Actually, closer to like half a millimeter thick, or maybe even slightly less than that. I mean, if you turn the heat on, if you turn your turbo burner on a wok, you can burn oil in it in less than 2 minutes.
Hey, by the way, talking about woks real quick, I'm pretty much decided that if I get one, it's most likely carbon steel. Although I have
What it should be.
I have seen arguments in favor of stainless steel.
No.
Too much
No.
stickage.
Too much stick. Woks you want slippery, very slippery. You're supposed to toss the wok. The wok's not really. I mean, the only time you don't toss woks is when they're too full to toss.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And I know
you
that
can't toss something that sticks.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, carbon steel seasons basically the same as cast iron does. Pretty much the same technique.
What you want to do with it is just start cooking with it. You don't want to try to throw it in the oven, because you're typically going to have a wooden handle on it.
Yep.
and obviously that wooden handle will burn.
Actually, the one I'm looking at, the handle detaches specifically for that reason, so you can season it in the oven.
Very good. But I still would just cook with it, man. Throw some oil in it. Make sure you don't use oil with low smoke points. I'm talking
Right.
canola oil,
Right.
vegetable oil. Those
Avocado
are your oils.
oil. Right.
Keep it simple, man.
I know. Peanut oil. And for me, for cooking, it's either olive oil, canola, or peanut.
Keep that olive oil away from your wok. Keep it away.
Tell that to half the Chinese chefs on YouTube.
They're wrong. I don't care. I don't care about their real ethnicity. Their olive oil does not go in Asian cooking.
I would agree with you. I mean, just on the surface, it sounds that way.
To quote Uncle Roger, olive oil is white people oil. Not suitable for Asian cooking. That's literally what he said. Like, and he's right. Olive oil is white people oil. That's what it is. Doesn't go in Asian cooking. It just doesn't. It doesn't belong. I know that sounds highly racially charged, but the truth is that it's just not correct for the cuisine. It's the wrong oil. It adds a flavor that does not belong.
I agree. And every time I see these Asian cooks use olive oil, I'm thinking, huh?
Yeah, it does not belong. That is an oil that does not belong. Stop putting olive oil in your fried rice. I will find you. I will find you.
Yeah. Now, peanut oil makes sense.
Peanut oil makes sense. But so help me, if I catch any of you fuckers putting olive oil in your fried rice, I will find you. I will find you, and I will make you pay.
Okay, people, as always, hit the like and subscribe. Please help Sean out on his retirement fund. And also, as always, if you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. We are always looking for new or different ideas.
So I'm speaking of new ideas. I have one for next week. You're not gonna like it.
Do I ever?
No, you're really not gonna like this one.
By the way, folks, in case you haven't figured it out over all this time by now, Sean's an asshole.
I think we should bake desserts next week.
Baked desserts.
Baked desserts.
If you think I'm doing a baked Alaska, you're out of your mind.
I said desserts. Just a baked dessert, a dessert that actually goes in the oven. So no ice cream, no tart. I mean, well, no, tarts would be fine, but no anything that you can just whip up by combining fruit and sugar. No bakes, no bake cookies, none of that shit. Bake some cookies or some scones or a cake or something.
How about biscuits and gravy?
I said dessert.
That is dessert. And main course and appetizer and breakfast, lunch and dinner.
No. I think that it would be. Now, keep in mind, guys, I don't bake. Jim doesn't bake. It's other than he cooks some he bakes some sourdough from time to time. He does like popovers and things like that, and cornbread, of course. And I do cornbread too. But neither of us bakes sweets, to my knowledge. And I think it'd be fun to test out with something that neither of us do. Presumably, we'll both be looking into some things to try to do it right, because neither of us, I'm probably going to try something overly ambitious and burn my house down. That's how these things go, right? Because I can't just do a thing to complete the objective. I've got to do something, wild. That's just how I am.
Well, you burn the house down. You and Alice are welcome to pull up a couple of our spare couches, as long as you put up with the dogs in my kitchen.
Well, most likely my cookware would survive the fire. So I just bring it with me, and then
Well,
we'd
you
have
feel you feel comfortable with mine too because we got the same stuff pretty much.
a lot of it, but we'd be adding a wok and some more not well
Yeah,
and a
assuming the handle survived.
well, we can always rehandle it. It screws out.
Anyway, baked dessert.
Yep, a baked dessert.
Oh
Um,
God! I
for
mean,
example, like just to know what you're up against here, I am toying with the idea of trying to do a croquembouche.
I don't know what that is.
It is a 16th century French dessert, typically reserved for celebrations, and it is essentially stacked cream puffs dipped in caramel and stuck together into like a mound tower thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, where did I see? What I just saw it on TV. Just no, I saw that on TV just a week ago.
I'll
There's a
be I'll
cooking
be real
show.
with you guys. I saw Croquembouche in One Piece, the anime. Big Mom, one of the bad characters of the show, was rampaging through and destroying a city looking for Croquembouche. And so that prompted me to go look up and see what croquembouche was. And it looks delicious. And I want to try making it. So that's where it comes from. That's where the idea comes from. I've been looking at a couple recipes for it. I think I might be able to pull it off. So, maybe I got a little bit of a head start, but I'm also trying something really ambitious. So,
I might have to try some type of bread pudding or maybe a filled popover, possibly some type of pastry, or just keep it simple and go with the pie.
pie works.
Hey, I'm sorry. I mean, I love apple pie,
I do
berry
too.
pie.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
all types of
I mean, look
almost
at
any
me.
fruit pie.
Obviously, I love pies. Pies and cakes and chocolates and
Well, that's I avoided. I was purposely holding off making the comment, but yeah, when you said that two of those bones per person, I was saying I couldn't help but think, yeah, anyone looking at you would say that's about right.
2 bones is reasonable. That's not an unreasonable portion.
For me nowadays, it is.
Well, you're an old man.
Yeah, go
And
back 30 years ago. Yeah, go back 30 years ago, I'd put that away and more and not gain a pound.
well, I could have eaten more, but I chose not to. I didn't make more because I knew I would eat more.
Yes,
I'm trying
folks.
to.
Sean and I really are friends, and we'll give each other crap about our health and weight and age and anything else.
I'm trying to exercise some restraint, Dick. You saw how good that looked.
Yes, it did.
If you'd had a plate full of those, it'd be tough not to eat more of them. If more was available and you had the space, it'd be tough.
Well, that's the whole thing. I don't have the space. One would have
That's-
been plenty.
I do have the space. I could probably put away 4 of them if I wanted to, or even 5.
Like I say, back in my 20s, I could easily do that.
Yep. Well, I'm still in my 20s for another month, and
That's right. You got a birthday coming up.
I do. So no, I want to try croquembouche, mostly because I'm going to be trying out that recipe a few times here coming up soon, because I'm thinking about potentially serving them at the tables at me and Alice's wedding when it's time to get married.
Ah.
I'm thinking I might do a couple of croquembouches for the tables, and for the amount of work that it seems goes into them, they're quite expensive to purchase at a bakery compared to making them yourself, and they seem like they're not that hard. So I'm gonna see if I can learn a new skill, and if not, then I'll buy them. I mean, I can't afford them, but I'd rather learn how to do something new.
That's insane. Cooking for your own wedding. Okay.
Making croquembouche like a day in advance, yeah, that's not a big deal. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm cooking the day of. That's not, I mean, I'm not going to bake the cake. I'm not going to cater it, although I could.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did.
I mean, if what I want is perfection, it's tough to trust anybody else with it but myself.
You know, we could fire up your smoker and turn out all of the protein the day ahead.
We could. We easily could. Easily. And honestly, if we really desired to, we could fire up the smoker and we could cook it the day before, and then we could just put a water pan in there and turn the smoker down to about 150, and we could
Yep.
hold it all night long.
Yep.
We could hold it all day, all night and all day the next day. At about 150, just out of the danger zone.
By the way,
Perfectly
folks,
safe.
in case you haven't figured it out, it's a pretty safe bet that Sean's wedding feast will not be suitable for vegans or vegetarians.
No. Actually, like I may have to not invite any vegans or vegetarians just to avoid offending them, because I mean I'm considering a meat cake.
Well, wait a minute. If you think about it, invite a vegan. I mean, that's grain-fed log pork.
But anyways,
sorry.
No, I'm considering. Have you seen those cakes where people took the steaks and they laid them on top of each other? They did at the bottom they did like a porterhouse, and then on top of the porterhouse they did and then at the very top a filet mignon, and they iced it with mashed potatoes. And they made some bacon flowers to go on it.
Yep.
I mean, one of those for each table wouldn't be the worst thing.
That'd be a hell of a wedding cake.
It couldn't be the wedding cake because it's not big enough, right? I mean, it's not big enough to be like that, that traditional big cake that you usually have. But it could be like one per table type kind of thing.
Yeah, and it would be rather difficult for Alice to take her slice and smash it up in your face.
Well, I'm hoping she doesn't do that. I actually don't intend to smash cake in her face. She doesn't like the idea. She thinks that it's sort of disrespectful, actually. So traditional maybe, but it's a little disrespectful.
It's not even traditional. It's actually as disrespectful. Funny at times, but disrespectful.
Yeah. So she's asked me to refrain, and I'm going to honor that. And obviously, I in exchange expect her to refrain.
I wonder if I can bribe her.
We both end up cakeless.
Yeah.
No, she wouldn't do that. No, she would tell you to go fuck yourself.
There's got to be a bribe she would take.
I mean, sure. There's enough money to bribe her. You make enough to bribe her if you really wanted to. If that was like a real desire of yours, it'd cost you a few racks, I'm sure. It wouldn't be cheap at all. You'd basically be paying for a honeymoon at that point.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's how expensive it would be. It'd be a high 4, low 5-figure sum that it would cost.
I don't know.
Alice doesn't bribe cheap.
I don't know. It might be something as easy as a washer and dryer.
That might do it. Although I doubt it. She would want.
All right. Anyway, folks, we've rambled on. We've gone way over our normal limit.
We have.
We'll take this offline and continue our bullshit.
Yep. Later, guys.
Later.